Welcome to Medical Sales U. I'm your host, Dave Stair, and we have an exciting guest with us, Paul Kesig. He's the founder of K-E-S, Kesig Enterprise Solutions. He has worked with a number of companies, small and large, including Johnson & Johnson. He has trained people over the years in sales. And his mission is to empower individuals and teams to embrace today's challenges so that they can achieve tomorrow's dreams. And he's passionate about helping people. And he wants them to become more curious, adapt to change, unleash their full potential. Paul, this is a great book you've written. Great to have you on the show.
Dave, I'm so excited to be here and have greater conversations, and thanks for the warm welcome.
Paul, tell us about this book, How to Love Sales. What inspired you to write this book?
You know, it's interesting. When I look back to, I was one of those people that almost failed freshman English. So if I could find my freshman English teacher, he would be so amazed that I actually wrote a book because it was nowhere on the agenda. But what actually inspired it was kind of twofold. I gave a TEDx talk on how to be embracing being sore today to become strong tomorrow. And from that, I had a mentor through it. And at the end of it, and this is where you have to love mentors, he did, "Hey, you know what? Great job, Paul." And he taps me on the shoulder and he goes, "Now you can write a book." And I go, "No, don't do this to an achiever. Don't tell me that it's time for me to write a book, because now I'm going to have to go out and figure out how to do that." So what I did is I started doing the research and going out and asking questions. And this one podcast actually changed my whole perspective. It was two things. This woman goes, "You know what? You can write a book because there's nothing new under the sun. No, there's no topic that hasn't already been discussed in a book. But what hasn't been discussed is your perspective on it." I went, "Okay, that's interesting." And then the real ringer and kicker to me was, she said, "You writing this as a legacy for your children and the family that you have." And I went, "Okay, very cool. This becomes now, I can pass a legacy on where some of the advice that I have from sales and the passion that I have for sales, I can send that and share that with my family and maybe the next generations as well, as a snapshot in time of how did we sell in the early 2000s and what's that look like and how does that evolve or not, given the fact of human behavior and the way that we go about changing." And the How to Love Sales came about because everybody I told I was in sales, they go, "Oh, I hate sales. There's no way. I would never do sales," right? And so I go, well, if everybody hates it and I love it, I got to write a book about how to love sales. And then it started becoming, well, what does it mean to love sales? And that's where I realized throughout my career, I had these kind of three or four tenets. There was little wins, open-ended questions, value, and emotional connection.
Love.
And I go, if you can pull those together, so that's where I built this love sales framework to say, wow, if I can pull those four things together and help people to set the right goals and then celebrate the wins of achieving them, ask better questions, see the value to the customer, and then build true emotional connections, both personally, professionally. You can sell a concept, you can sell yourself, you can sell an idea, you can sell products, services, anything really. You can sell your friends on where to go to dinner. It's not just this is a medical device sales book, which was my primary experience, but truly a life goal and lesson about how to sell.
I love the acronym LOVE. I love acronyms in general, but little wins, open-ended questions, value, in emotional connection. Okay, Paul, part of my program, I'm coaching people how to break into medical device, pharmaceutical sales, genetic testing. We have, some of our students recently took jobs at places like Tempest AI and Garden in the whole, world of comprehensive genomic testing and screening and stuff like that. But we've had people get in device, but also pharma. Tell us your story, and maybe here's something even before we get into medical sales. Take us back to when you were a child. When you tell a story, you're on the paper route, and sales was not something that you initially liked. But just take us back there and how you changed and how you grew and how you became the person who actually loves sales. Tell us that.
Yeah, so sales kind of ran in the blood for my extended family, not my immediate family. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was an engineer. Both were very successful in their craft, but they were introverts. And so they had this son come along, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, this person talks to everybody. Like, never meeting a stranger, always sparking conversation." And so I started out on this paper route. And I would pack my bag in the morning. I would put it on my bike that I had bought with some of my savings, and I would pedal to the next neighborhood over. and start slinging the papers, which was a crazy experience, right? But then it came to collection day, and I would go up and I'd knock on these doors and we'd start having conversations. And then eventually, over the course of 3-4 years, these people would start to invite you into their homes. I was getting incredible tips. And I'm going, oh, if I drop it on the door instead of putting it in the driveway, I get a little extra money. This is interesting. So I really enjoyed that. And it kind of became this sense of, what else can you do in sales? And so that led to an opportunity when I was in high school. I got into retail sales. And then in college, I started to do advertising sales to sell spots for space on the local TV stations. And then after that, I go, well, okay, sales is fun, but what am I truly passionate about? And I've always wanted to help people, but I never wanted to be a medical doctor. I knew from the start, like I said, education wasn't my thing from a long tenure standpoint. So I said, how can I help people but not have to go to medical school? And that's when I found out medical device was available. And so through my program at Ohio University, the Shea Sales Center, I was able to learn those sales skills, really hone my craft in college, and then was able to find a internship in a company that was willing to take a risk on me to move out into medical device sales. So I left everything I was comfortable with, moved clear across the country to a small little town in the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire, and cut my teeth on driving through the beautiful countryside of northern New England.
Wow.
And I just love the people that I met.
What company was that your very first opportunity?
Yeah, so I started with a company, you're probably familiar with it, is Cardinal Health. It was large pharmaceutical distribution. I ended up calling on mom and pop pharmacies across New England. And you would have to come in and we're talking about someone's family business. And they're kind of like, what are you going to teach me about family business? And I go, well, I know how to sell and I can help you bring value to make your business grow. So it was a fun opportunity to really learn and grow in that industry.
So when you were, now what about the transition? And that's great about Ohio University here locally is that is one of the few schools that really doesn't just teach business, but they do teach selling. And because unfortunately, there's so many people, even Ivy League, and I have some students from very prestigious schools that you can think of, but that's a great thing about Ohio University is the emphasis of selling. What was that like? How long did it take you? How old were you when you got that first medical sales jobs at Cardinal?
I did my internship in my junior to senior year at Cardinal, and then literally straight out of school, I moved it. I went there. So it was 22, 23, whatever, when you're graduating college. My first job out. And I had everybody tell me, hey, Paul, you can't do it. You can't do it.
Yes.
And you know what I did? I networked. And I started making phone calls. And I started to say, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. And this is why I want to do it. It's not just because I want to get a high-paying sales job. I want to go help people. And how can I do that? And this was a way for me to realize, okay, I may not be able to break into OR sales or a high-level brain trauma sales or whatever it becomes right out of the gates, but it gave me a great opportunity to be able to get out of my comfort zone and go and learn an industry of even how to sell. And I had really great leaders at that time that took me under their wing as this new guy, coming out with all the sales philosophies from Ohio U, which was wonderful, and taking that time to go, okay, Paul, this is good. You understand the theory. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the relationship piece, which that's led to my emotional connection side.
Wow. I love that. And after that, tell us a little bit more about your career, because you've had a lot of incredible experiences since then. Tell us a little bit about your career journey of moving up and more sophisticated selling and continued relationship building along the way and promotion and just to where you are today.
Yeah, great. Happy to do that. So I worked for Cardinal Health for about 2.5 years, and I was enjoying what I was doing, but deep inside I had this drive to say, man, I would love to sell a medical device. So I was selling more of the services side. And so I said, how can I sell a true device? So I found a small private biotech company. It's actually called Nova Biomedical, based in Waltham, Massachusetts, and amazing products. I absolutely loved what I was selling. I won Rep of the Year there, and it was brand new products. They were high quality, clinically accurate. It just wasn't the right fit for me culturally. And so I spent about 4 years there and then realized, I want to be able to expand and beyond just a small private biotech company. And that's when I started looking bigger back to like those Cardinal Healths, and I found Johnson and Johnson. And so I came to Johnson and Johnson in as basically I took a step back, both pay and title, if you want to look at it that way, but the experiences that I gained were second to none. So I came in and started selling a single product into the joint space where I was helping with hyaluronic acid injections. And it was funny. People were like, this is snake oil. It's terrible. No way, this doesn't work. And you had to overcome these objections from just long-standing, I don't believe in this. And so how do you get people to start to listen to you by asking those questions? So I did that for a few years, worked my way through school as well. I got a master's at Northeastern in healthcare management and finance because I wanted to be able to have those type of conversations with hospital administrators and leaders of practices to say, I understand finance, I can help you in your financial end too. And that's why I went back to school to be that continuous learner. From there, I also had the dream to become a people leader. I'm passionate about helping develop and grow people, as you can probably sense from the way with my book.
Yes.
And that led to an opportunity to become a territory leader, so leading in the field, which then morphed into an opportunity coming available in-house. And then the opportunity continued to expand from there as I've been able to lead a team now as a senior manager within Johnson & Johnson to help educate both surgeons and sales consultants on ways to improve their craft, but then also how to learn surgeries. But the neat part behind all that is we have our day job, but then there's so many other opportunities that come from that. So like I mentioned earlier, in the midst of that, I ended up having the opportunity to give a TEDx J&J talk on how to become.
Tell us about that. How did you land that, and what was that like, a TEDx
It
talk?
was amazing. It was one of my most incredible experiences. I saw an internal posting, believe it or not, on like a SharePoint site that said, send in auditions to be able to be part of TEDx. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I've always had an interest in wanting to be public speaking and do a TEDx. Let's try it. So I had to send in an audition video. Then I had to go through an audition. And then I went through a selection committee, and then I was notified that, hey, Paul, congratulations, you were selected. And so myself and 11 others went, and we would do workshops like every 2 months down in New Jersey. We had voice coaches, we had writing coaches, we had speaking coaches. We had opportunities to work with these people that would challenge us to say, what's the story that you're going to tell? And the thing that stood out to me the most about TED, it was, you're not talking to a particular person like you, Dave. But you would find this and you would say, what is the person struggling with? And let's say that they're struggling with not being confident. So my goal in talking at that talk was to move someone who was not confident to feeling confident. And then at that point, it doesn't become demographic, age, gender, etc. It becomes, oh, I don't feel confident and I can move to becoming confident. And it changes your entire perspective of how you tell stories.
I love that.
And so you find this, you got to get the facts and figures. Here's what we did. Here's the outcomes, et cetera. But then you have to tell the stories that come along with it. So like for me, we would share the metrics of, hey, these are the people that are leveraging our training and here's what they're getting. But then the story would come and you'd hear regions go, they're taking their own initiatives to start driving the conversations and embracing the change. And you're, wow, this is the feel, and that's how people relate to the story that you're telling.
I love that.
And so for me, it was great because then you get up on your red dot and they teach you how to memorize and how to structure your statements and your writing so that you can memorize it in chunks. And then if you do get stuck, there is no safety net in TED. If you're not familiar, it's literally, you don't have no cards. You stand on the dot. There's no teleprompter in the back. It's just a little red clock that's slowly counting down the minutes to 0 once your talk is supposed to be over. So they gave a lot of tips and tricks of how to be able to memorize it, and if you do get lost, how to get back to it. And super proud of all the connections that I made, and it made me realize again the power of people, because you start sharing your story, and people hear it, and then they have a part of their story that connects into it, and then you watch how they pull all these stories together, and they really actually told a large celebratory story about how to overcome challenges and embrace just change in general, which was fascinating for me. I ended up being able to kick it off, but then the other 11 speakers would have in some way, it may have been a personal trial, a work trial, a mindset change. I mean, we had one person who even went through a major physical altercation and was able to overcome. So I was just really appreciative of
love
the
that.
opportunity there. Yeah.
Well, you've also in your you know throughout your career, you've mentored and you wanted to get into people leadership, and you've inspired a lot of younger reps, but also seasoned surgeons as well in teaching. I find as I'm talking to those wanting to break in to pharmaceutical or medical device sales, as I'm talking to them, there's kind of two challenges. You talk about lacking confidence. You have one group of people that I would say are maybe a little overconfident, right? Maybe they either have a clinical background, they can do this, or they have maybe a little bit of alpha, maybe they're a college athlete, and yet they don't have sales experience. You talk also about SMART goals. And the other group of people that I have are extremely intelligent, but they just don't have sales experience. I mean, this last week, I had a medical doctor, a nurse, and a pharmacist, two of those with MBAs, one a graduate of Johns Hopkins, join my program. Then I have others, and yet there's a brilliance there, but I find this tension between lacking confidence or being overconfident, and then just having maybe a practicality and balancing that. Tell us a little bit about how you coach, first of all, the person who may be overconfident but doesn't have the clinical knowledge. How do you coach that person to realize that maybe the way they're presenting themselves needs to be more humble and yet more knowledgeable in their questions? How would you coach that person who's maybe a little overconfident?
Confidence is a good thing because I like to view confidence as it's not how others see you, but it's how you see yourself. And then ultimately, as a Christian, I can go back to the faith where it's more we have confidence because of whom we have. Our confidence comes from God. It's Himself. So
that's good.
We have that component where. So for me, a confidence, and I'll tell a story early on in my career that changed my entire perspective on confidence. And so this kind of goes into how I would coach. You have to dig deep to understand why you're showing up, because arrogance comes back from a selfish perspective on, I want to go in and sell them so I can make more money. Confidence comes in to say, how can I help you? Because I ultimately know if you achieve your goals, then I'm going to achieve mine. As a coach, as a sales professional, as a leader, that's going to be true. You help the others to achieve their goals. So I remember when I first started out in sales, I drove to the parking lot. There was my competitor's car in the lot. I had a set appointment time, and with this guy, I was with pharmacist I was supposed to go in to see. Never went in. I sat in the parking lot. This is a shameful story for me. I sat in the parking lot. That the rep was in there, and the car never left. So I drove home, and then came back the next day. Well, of course, the car's gone the next day. So I go in, and the first thing the pharmacist says, like anybody, well, where were you yesterday? I go, well, I saw my competitor's car was in the parking lot, so I didn't want to come in and interrupt. And this is where he changed my life. He goes, Paul, if you have something of value to sell, it doesn't matter who's in the room. You need to come in and tell them about it.
I love that. That's so
and I go,
cool.
Okay, so my confidence doesn't become of like my skill and how great I am, but it comes from what am I coming to share them with? Like the product I could be selling, for me, at least in medical sales, that's why I love what you're doing here, Dave. We're saving patients' lives potentially. So it turns into the fact like, how am I helping to save someone's life by the product that I'm selling or bringing in?
Why don't you just repeat maybe the last little portion of what you said, and we'll edit it out and piece it together.
Yeah, so as I was sitting there, I walked in and I met with this pharmacist. And his comment to me was, Paul, where were you yesterday? I'm like, well, I didn't come in because my competitor was already here. And this is where he changed my life. He goes, Paul, if you have something of value to sell, it doesn't matter who's in the room. They need to hear about it. And that's when I stepped back and I went, okay, you're right. Like I'm not in here basically beating my chest saying, I know all this stuff and I'm great. I'm coming in going, I want to help you. And just like within medical device sales, the reason that we get into it is because the product that you're giving them is helping someone to be able to get back to a behavior or an activity that they couldn't do before, or that they were struggling with, or helping to regulate them. So it's an obligation from our end. So from a coaching end, I try to work with people to get them to say, think less of yourself, think more of others. So it's more of a others-focused, loving approach. And that's where I come at it from, the loving sales piece, that you have to love others more than you love yourself, because then it's going to turn into the benefits will come from that.
So true. You're talking about confidence, not cockiness, loving others more than yourself, and having confidence in the product company. It's not all about us. It's finding those solutions and providing a solution for these particular patients who maybe there was no hope. Maybe this doctor was struggling and there's a solution. And that's what you're doing. But Paul, that's so hard to do. Our tendency is not to love others. We think about ourselves, our tendency. What is it that helps you to say, you know what? I'm going to care about these others, whether it's the people I'm training, whether it's the physician I'm talking to, maybe just, the medical assistant, the nurse. And how do you care more about them? Because we have so much going on. How do you truly love others?
Well, I mean, as a Christian, I think, we love because he first loved us. So Christ's love for us helps us to give an example of how to love others. But for me personally, I wasn't able to grow up with grandparents due to a lot of medical issues. I won't go into a lot of detail there, but by the time I was basically 10 years old, I didn't have any grandparents left, and every one of them had a situation that probably could have been prevented medically. And so there was a passion deep down inside to go, if I can help someone still have time with their grandparents or with their brother or sister or mother or father, etc., it just became, that was my why. And I'm a big believer in Simon Sinek's The Power of Why, when he talks about the golden circles of how you go about, like first you find your why and then the how and then the what. And so for me, if you can't figure out your why, when I lived in New England, you wake up, it was -2, -4 degrees without even the wind chill. And so you walk outside and it's -15 degrees. My car's barely going to start. Why am I walking into an account today? Why am I going to drive through those squalls up on the Route 93 in the middle of New Hampshire? Because I knew it was important for me to go in and help those customers, because they were helping the patients that were ultimately, I may never get to meet them, maybe someday I will, but what I was providing and the things that I was doing for them was going to ultimately help the patient to be able to have a quality of life that I think we all hope for. And we do that because we care about others versus my health or my satisfaction of being able to just sit in I'll do an office day because it's so blasted cold out.
I like that. You're talking about how to love sales, and it gets back to loving people. And I think those who come to this industry, whether maybe it's in cancer, maybe it's in device. For you, it was, without getting into the details, you mentioned you didn't have grandparents. We all have a story. When I remember interviewing for a company when I first moved to Columbus, Ohio, and it was in lung cancer. It was a breakthrough treatment. And I was able to say, my grandfather died of lung cancer. My uncle died of lung cancer. Now, they were smokers, but my wife, her mom died of lung cancer when she was a little girl. She was a non-smoker. She was a very influential interior designer here in Columbus, Ohio. 5 children. My wife was the smallest of 5. And if I can be part of an innovative treatment that will help save lives and give hope to these patients where previously there was no hope, I want to be part of that. And I think that's what you're talking about in love is having a respect for people. It's the little wins. It's not just the big accounts, but it's the way we treat every single person along the way. It's being curious, asking those open-ended questions. So L, little wins. O, open-ended questions. V is value. And E is an emotional connection. And that's a great piece. We had another guy on our podcast, Tom Ziegler. His father was Zig Ziglar. He was an older man at my church who spoke all around the world, inspiring people. And he would say that even if you're not really in sales, we're all selling. And I remember at the time I was a teacher, and I remember learning from Zig Ziglar. But Tom has continued that on, and you do it so well in this book. And so for anybody, any of our students or people that have been seasoned in the industry, not just medical sales, but any type of sales, I truly recommend this book. I got it off Amazon. I don't know if there's a better place, but this is How to Love Sales. Paul, tell us a little bit about how people can get in touch with you, your corporation, your book. How can they connect best and get your book as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And Dave, I really appreciate everything that you said here. I mean, the little wins and celebrating those along the way, the value that you connect for others, and then that emotional connection piece. I love the way you summarize that. If you're interested in learning more about my book, you can go to my website, www.paulkesig.com. Also, it's on Amazon, Dave. So where you got it, you can get it in hardback or paperback form. There are also digital. So if you have an iPhone or a Kindle or a iPad, tablet, if you want to listen to it or read it on there, you also can do it that way. I'm really passionate about helping people through coaching, speaking, or training. So if you as an individual or a team want help being coached on how to grow your sales, I would love the opportunity to chat with you. If as a team or a company, you want me to come in and speak to your overall group, I'm happy to talk about how to unleash your potential or how to ask better questions, even leveraging AI, or how to love sales more. And then finally, if you're looking for just an overall training, I'd be happy to provide that as well. And so my goal is and hope is to try to help others to truly love sales by embracing being sore today to become strong tomorrow. So that's my passion, and that's why I started my company, and it's also why I wrote the book, so that hopefully someone that's listening to this can take that, go out and succeed. And I got to admit, that's the humbling piece for me, is hearing the success stories from others that have read and go, wow, Paul, this really made an impact in my life. So I'd be honored to be involved in your journey. And Dave, do appreciate the opportunity today.
Paul, thank you so much. It's great. And just one fun question here. Tell us a little bit about your family and what you're doing for fun when you're not selling or writing books or traveling and speaking.
Yeah, so a little bit about my family. So I have a beautiful wife, Tara, and my two kids, Andrew and Allison. We love to spend time together. So whether that's at the beach, I love to smoke meat. I'm an offset smoker. So that is a passion of mine. I love to do it and exercise. So if we can be outside riding bikes, playing Frisbee, throwing the ball around, those are the things we really love to do.
That's great. Well, I enjoyed the book. I noticed you did the Spartan race too, and give a few applications about how, hey, in life you got to prepare. As you say, it's the little wins, right, along the way that can help you get those big wins. Paul, hey, it was great to have you on the Medical Sells You podcast, and I look forward to meeting you in person as well.
Sounds great, Dave. Thanks so much for the time, and I do appreciate the opportunity as well.
Thank you.